Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel as Mike's Talks and Thoughts here back again today with another characters tier list for you guys. And today we have one of my all-time favorite casts in TV in a show that I recently just finished here, that being Lost. Lost, of course, was such a phenomenon of a show here, and going through, we will be ranking the characters from the show. Let me know down in the comment section below what your thoughts are on some of these character placements here. And of course, let me know if you're a big fan of Lost. I am planning to do a lot more Lost videos here on my channel moving forward. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started here. So coming in first here, we have Ana Lucia. And for me, she's got to go D tier. I feel like the writers wrote her character to be super annoying and super, someone who just gets on your nerves all the time in season 2 with the tail section of the plane. But she is involved in one of the best plot twists in the show. She definitely has better moments, especially later on in season 2 and even in her flashbacks as well. But to me, man, she's still just annoying. I just never really connected with her character. I know some people like her more than others. But for me, man, I gotta put her in one of these lower tiers for sure. Next tier, Benjamin Linus, and Ben is going S tier. Ben is probably a top 3 character in the show. I absolutely love his little arc that he has. Starting out in season 2 impersonating Henry Gale and then finding out that he's the leader of the others, this group that they had been warned about since the first season here. And I just love his development throughout the show, and his battle, of course, with Charles Widmore here being such a focal point. Him being, of course, like I said, the leader of the others, and his kind of transformation from someone who only wants power to finally someone who is doing something to better the island, which they kind of hinted at the finale with him and Hurley, which I thought was great. He's also in like this epilogue that they kind of do after the show, that you can find on YouTube here. I will link that in the description below if you're looking to check that out. If you have not seen that yet from Lost, it's kind of a little follow up for like a 10-minute clip here on something that happens after the finale here. But yeah, Benjamin Linus is absolutely incredible. Love his story and just such a great character. His dynamics with all the other characters, it's top tier. Next up here, Bernard. I'm gonna put Bernard in C tier here. Bernard here, honestly, I'm shocked he's even going this high for me because he, for I would say 90% of the time he was on screen, was super annoying, man. I could not stand Bernard. He just something about him. I don't know if it was just his voice or the way he just kind of tried to communicate things. It just came off so bad. Just not good. But I did love his relationship with Rose. I thought that they had one of the better relationships for sure on the show, even though I feel like they're not showcased too much on the show. From what we see, they have just a great relationship here, especially towards the later seasons here on the island where they're kind of off separate from the entire group here. Um, you know, that's definitely when they become a lot more likable, especially Bernard here. Next up, Boone here. I'm going to put Boone in B tier. Boone, was, I feel, so memorable to the show because he was, the first really big character to go in the show. So it was such impactful. He was the first domino to fall, I feel like I said, the main characters here. And he shows up a lot in flashbacks here throughout the show. And, of course, being able to come back in the finale, I thought was great. So I think Boone, he's solid. He's definitely above like that C tier of like kind of mid or average characters. So I'm gonna put him in B tier. Next tier, Charlie. And Charlie, I'm gonna put Charlie in A. I think that Charlie has one of the best character conclusions in the show, Through the Looking Glass. Probably my favorite, if not in my top 3 episodes of Lost here. and I love his dynamics with Hurley, with Claire, with a whole bunch of other people on the island. I feel like Charlie's so polarizing. Some people either love it or hate it for Charlie. I personally loved Charlie's character. One of my favorite episodes of all time is Charlie's Greatest Hits. Of course, the episode before, Through the Looking Glass, and that is incredible here. Going through, of course, Charlie's Greatest Hits. Like I said, I love his relationship with Claire. It's one of my favorites on the show here. His dynamics with Hurley, like I mentioned, and just his contributions to the show, I feel like, are very underrated. Next year we have Charlotte. I feel like again she's another one who a lot of the fan base kind of hates on. I'm gonna put her in C tier though. She of course is a part of the whole Widmore team in season 4, and she has a relationship a little bit with Daniel Faraday here, and I love Daniel, and we'll get to him pretty soon. But she is just kind of average to mid. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, this is kind of what that C tier is. Characters who are either just kind of average mid or just kind of like, you know, they're okay. So that I think is the perfect tier for her. I'm also going to put Christian Shepherd in that tier as well. I feel like, he has a lot of interesting dynamics, of course, with Jack, the main character, and he in the show is either shown in flashbacks or in the form of the Man in Black here. So it's like we're not really seeing Christian in a live time here, but I mean his conversation with Jack in the finale is top tier. He's a part of the series in so many different ways. He's very impactful to the show. But for me, he's just kind of average. I didn't really think too much of him, either liking or disliking. Next tier we have Claire, and I'm gonna put Claire in B tier. I know she's another polarizing person. I get the people who are like, she's annoying. She's just the bitchy pregnant woman. But for me, I actually really like her. Like I said, her and Charlie, I feel like their dynamic is awesome in the show. I wish they would have expanded on it a little bit more because they kind of go hot and cold with that throughout the show. She does go like batshit crazy later on in the show. She's completely off season 5, and then season 6 she comes back crazy. But I always thought that she was a solid character. She was never one of the very top tiers, but I always thought that she was a very solid character, especially for those earlier seasons of the show. Next tier, Daniel Faraday. I'm going to put Daniel Faraday in A tier. I love the time travel aspect of Daniel here, and we'll get into that with Desmond here. And I love his dynamics with Desmond. I think that they're one of the most underrated in the show. But yeah, just his connections with so much on the island, and his parents and his time at university. I think that they're very underrated scenes here. I think he's such a likable character in the show, and definitely just so sad the way he went out, man. Just like in the season 5 Dharma Initiative with and the flashes of the island, just crazy. And next here, Desmond. I'm gonna put Desmond A tier. I know a lot of people will probably put Desmond S tier. I think he's like kind of right on that border of A and S here, but for me, I'm gonna put him in A tier. I think that Desmond's really great. He of course, just like Daniel Faraday, is involved in a lot of the time travel aspects of Lost. I think he has one of the best introductions of the show in season 2. Him and Penny are amazing. Again, another one of the top tier relationships on the show, and him being such a vital part of the finale, of getting everyone back together, and at the end of the time on the island with him removing the heart of the island, it was super interesting here. The Constant, you get some people who think The Constant's overrated. I gotta disagree. I think The Constant, I would probably have it in my top 5 Lost episodes. I think that is just so great, so emotional. Of course, Desmond being at the center of attention in that episode here. Really great. I think he is a phenomenal character. And next here we have Mr. Echo. I'm going to put Mr. Echo in B tier. I actually really liked Mr. Echo. I thought he was super underrated when he was on the show. And when he, of course, departed from the show, I was like, why are they doing like it just did not feel natural. And I read up, of course, afterwards that his actor, he did not want to stay in Hawaii. He wanted to go back to his hometown in London here, so he kind of worked out a deal to where Mr. Echo would be going within the first 6 episodes of season 3 here. So yeah, that was kind of the end to his character, and they never bring him back. That's the sad thing is, you know, I know that maybe he couldn't have done a full time schedule, but I would love to see him back in some flashbacks, and like even in the finale, and he's nowhere to be found. He's one of the only people that I can think of, from the original um, group here, that does not get brought back. They bring back Ana Lucia and Libby, feels like all the time, but they forget Mr. Echo. So that was kind of, a pain that they weren't able to bring him back. But I understand, some actors are unavailable in that way. Next here we have Eloise Hawking, and I'm gonna put her. She's like a C or D tier character. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt and put her C. Again, just kind of someone who's a little bit average. Daniel Faraday's mom, and she has so much connections with the island, being there with the hostiles back in the 40s, and then of course she's also very involved in time travel, and she kind of points them in the right direction to get back to the island after they leave the Oceanic Six. So she's definitely vital to the show, and in a lot of important aspects, but her character overall is just not really too likable. But yeah. Next here, Hurley, man. Hurley's gotta go S tier. I mean, who does not love Hurley? And two of my favorite episodes of the show, Everybody Loves Hugo and Everybody Hates Hugo. Two of my favorite aspects here and points from the show. I absolutely love those episodes. The numbers here, crazy. And like I said, he's just so likable throughout the whole show. Hurley might have, aside from, maybe Jack or Locke, the best dynamics on the show. He just connects with so many different characters and is involved in so much that I love his character. Jorge Garcia is amazing as an actor here, very underrated as well. And how can you not love Hurley? He might be one of the most likable characters in any TV show ever. Next here we have Ilana. She is sort of the person who comes to the island in season 6 as this protector here for Jacob, and sent there by Jacob to keep his candidates safe. She's just C tier. She just wasn't involved enough in the story, I feel like, to really warrant a placement higher or lower on the list. Next here, Jack. Of course, Jack is going to go S tier. I would say of the characters here, Jack is probably my fourth favorite on the show. A lot of people love Jack. He's the protagonist of the show, and he is very underrated as well, which is kind of crazy to say. Not in the fact in Lost, I would say, but in the fact of TV protagonists. I never really hear Jack's name thrown around in that top tier of protagonists, but I think he's great. He has such great dynamics with everyone else on the island. He has a great conclusion. Pretty much the whole finale, revolves around Jack, and I think it's great, man. I love Jack as a character. He's so great, and definitely warrants a spot here in the S tier. Next here we have Jin. I'm gonna put Jin A tier, and we'll get to Sun. Actually, no, we'll put Jin and Sun together here. On this tier list, I think that they both are A tier characters. Jin and Sun, both of them, I feel when they first were on screen, I couldn't stand them. I had a feeling that they were going to be one of the most annoying, couples or groups on the island throughout the whole thing. If you just watch them through the first few episodes of season 1 here, you kind of get that vibe. But they have one of the most beautiful, heartwarming journeys on the entire show. I absolutely love them. They probably are my favorite couple on the show just because of how connected they are from before they were on the island to the island to after the island. It's just, there's so much substance with them, and it's so great. They become so much likable. They have one of the saddest moments in the show in season 6 here, and just the love that they kind of have for each other, I think, is just unparalleled. The hard times that they go through, I love their characters and definitely warrant spots towards the top here. Next tier, my man John Locke. John Locke is gonna go S tier, man. I absolutely love John Locke. I mean, who again? Another one like Hurley. How can you not love John Locke, man? John Locke is awesome, and I just love John, man. He's so great. He is built for running that island, man, and his dynamics with Ben are incredible. Probably like my favorite dynamic in the show, even above Jack and Locke. I love Locke and Ben, especially in season 4 when Jack and Locke sort of separate the group. Locke is great, man. And like Jack says, man, in season 6, when the Men in Black, of course, takes the form of John Locke, he says, you dishonor his memory by wearing his face. And totally got to agree, man. John Locke, do not disrespect the legend, man. Juliet here, I'm going to put Juliet in B tier. I think that she is definitely another one who could be overrated or underrated in the Lost universe here. Some people are really high on Juliet and some people can't stand Juliet. I think that she's solid. She's someone who we meet as working with the others here. She's their fertility doctor here, trying to bring life to the island. And she kind of becomes in good with the group at the end of season 3 here. And she's involved in the time travel in season 5 with a few other members of the group who they play such an important role in the Dharma Initiative. She, of course, has one of the saddest ways of going out, and one of my favorite aspects of the finale, the flash sideways, she is involved in two of the best ones, of course. Her giving the ultrasound to Sun and Jin, and then as well her and Sawyer finally reuniting again. Another very underrated relationship on the show. Kate here, Kate. Kate is on again, sort of like Desmond, on the border between A and S, but I think I will give Kate the benefit of the doubt here just because she's involved in so much of the story. She is probably like the third main character on the show behind Jack and Locke here. Kate, again, another polarizing pick here. I do like her relationship with Jack. I definitely feel like they're not as strong as some of the others, but I like her backstory, man. Just this girl who's just on the run, hated by the world, it seems like, and like how Jacob mentioned that when they were all came to the island, they were all flawed or all lost in that aspect. And Kate, I feel like, was one of the most prime examples of someone who was just so flawed in life with her relationship with her stepfather and father and her mother. So, yeah. Next here we have our first F tier character, and that's going to be Martin Keamy here, man. Martin Keamy, I mean, he was meant to be hated so much, but man, I cannot stand this dude. He was like Charles Widmore's second or third in command here, especially like in season 4 of The Island, and I cannot stand this dude. I mean, this dude just fucked up everything, attaching that thing to his arm, which of course blew up the freighter, and then just his attitude, man. I cannot stand this dude. Libby here, I'm gonna put Libby in B tier. I mean, give Libby and Hurley some justice, man. Just, of course, involved in one of the greatest plot twists ever, man. In the show, Libby is great, man. I wish we could have gotten more of her, and I love her flashback scene she's in. Of course, plays such a huge part in Hurley and his development in the show. I'm gonna put her in B tier. Lapidus here. Lapidus, he's on the border of B and A. I think though I gotta put him in B. He's just not in it long enough. The pilot of the plane here, who the Ajira flight, and as well working for Wedmore, but he is just hilarious. He's one of the funniest characters I feel like on the show. He's always got some funny one-liners to say, and he is just such a nice breath of fresh air on the show here. I think he's another one. They'd given him some more screen time. Very underrated character. Next tier we have the Man in Black, and I'm going to put the Man in Black in B tier as well as Jacob. I know, again, some people are very polarized by both of these characters. Some people think that, they're amazing. Other people think that they're just awful. I actually love the background episode that they're in, Across the Sea. Again, that one I feel like is very low rated compared to the rest of the top tier episodes here. I actually do really like their backstory. We get to see, of course, the heart of the island, Jacob being the protector of the island, the Man in Black being the smoke monster, and how he kind of became that way, and just the intentions behind each one of their actions here, and how they got to the island. And I really wish they would have expanded, because I felt like that Jacob and the Man in Black were both like, I thought that they were the first people to ever be on this island, but it wasn't really the case. There was like another group that was there, and then the mother, who, again, one of the most frustrating aspects of the show, they don't really go into much detail on how she got to the island. It's like, when they kept bringing up Jacob's name and the Man in Black, they make it seem like they were from like 2,000 years ago, and I thought, like I said, that they were going to be like the first inhabitants of the island, but that really wasn't the case. But um, I actually don't think they're that bad. I think that they're just like kind of a little bit above average characters. That's going to be the same as well for Michael. Michael here is also going to go B tier, just because um, he is so sporadic in his appearances on the show. He's in like all of season 1, then in a little bit of season 2. um, you know he's involved in, of course, the plot twist that I have mentioned previously on this character's tier list. You also have like him just not being on the show at all, and I believe he's like not even in season 3. Then he comes back as Kevin Johnson in season 4. So, and then he's on the freighter that explodes, but we never even really see like confirmation but of Michael here. And I actually do really like, though, the flash. I don't know if I would consider a flashback or a flash forward, but when Hurley's talking to him in season 6, and he talks about, we hear the whispers on the island. It's the people who haven't been able to leave the island. It's a very interesting aspect, and definitely, you know, cool seeing, of course, Michael back on screen at that time. But for me, he was just kind of above average to average character. He is involved in some crazy plot lines, and of course, in season 1, he's, I would say, one of the main characters. Of course, he is involved so much. Miles here, I'm gonna put Miles in C tier. I was never really too crazy about Miles. I actually couldn't stand the guy when he first came on the show. He definitely got better. I think season 5, he really stands out with the Dharma Initiative and finding out about his backstory with Pierre Chang here. But for me, man, I gotta put him in C tier. Next tier we have Nikki and Paolo. They're both like F tier characters getting buried alive due to a Spider-Man. Crazy. They have, like, I've talked about all tier lists. Some of my favorite relationships on the show. They probably have the worst relationship on the whole show. They are just toxic people, man. And it's so weird. They are, meant to have been survivors of the crash, but they really don't even get screen time until like season 3, I think. Like, they just are so far behind everything else, man. And then they finally get like a few episodes to themselves, and they're just not that likable, man. Um, yeah, they're just not good. They could have cut out like all of their scenes, and we would have been all right. Penny here, I think Penny is a great character. Again, she's on that border of being A. I'm gonna put her in B, though, just because she's not really involved with the island at all. She comes to the rescue, and she's in part of one of the best scenes. Not Penny's boat, I love, and of course, finding out about her boat, and of course Charles Widmore being her father here, how he has so much history with the island. But of course, her main purpose on the show was, of course, being that girl for Desmond here, and they have such a great, um, relationship, and just their scenes together feel incredible here. But again, someone who really doesn't get much screen time on the show, so for that reason alone, I think I got to put her in B. But she is definitely one of the more likable characters on the show. Again, another one who I can't see why you would hate on Penny. Next here we have Alex, and I'm gonna put Alex in B tier. I think I will do the same as Danielle, her mother here. So Alex here, someone who we find out very early on because we meet Rousseau so early on, and we find out, of course, that Alex was taken like a week after she was born by Ben. And we see right when I saw her, when the group was captured by the others, I knew immediately that that was Alex, Danielle's daughter here. So, of course, she's been living with them this entire time, and she's someone who is very sympathetic while the others have like no mercy and do whatever they want. She is someone who does not want to see these people captured, wants them to get away, and does not have the heart for this. Her and Ben's relationship, they build on so much in the show with him basically getting her killed, and then in season 6 when we see, of course, the flashes into the afterlife, and Ben's, of course, the teacher, and Alex is like his best student, and they have a little bit more relationship building in that, like, in that sort of way that, of course, they kind of make Ben her father figure. But of course, Danielle is her mother here, and they don't really get much time together. Um, after they reunite, which I thought they should have, because she had not seen her daughter in so long, and um, of course Rousseau involved in. She's like the first main character you meet after the Oceanic 815 um, characters here. She's like the first main character who gets involved with them, so she's important in that way for sure. Tom here, man. Fuck Tom. Tom is like F tier, man. Couldn't stand this dude. He wore that fake beard here and captured Walt, at the end of the first season. And then he's just such a pain. I think he gets better a little bit. He's probably the most likable, I would say, of the F tier characters. But he just, like, just such a weird character, man. I'm not really too big of a fan of Tom. Next here we have Vincent here. Give my boy Vincent S tier, man. I would love to see Vincent more, man. It feels like Vincent, he'll disappear for like seasons at a time and then just come back out of nowhere. Vincent, man. I mean, no, not much else to say. Like, Vincent's like a legend. Charles Widmore here. I'll put him C tier. I know some people are gonna put him in F tier, just because he's a prick. I mean, which team are you on? Are you Team Widmore, Team Ben Linus? Of course, I'm Team Linus, man. Screw Widmore, bro. This dude's just a I don't even know how to describe him. Like, just like a crazy old man, bro. He has connections with the island being there, and then Ben kicking him off the island, and him trying 20 years to find it. His relationship with, of course, Penny, his daughter here, and of course his rivalry with Ben being so prominent here. I'm so glad that Ben won in the end over Charles, man, because Charles Widmore, man, he was not the one to discover all this stuff on the island. He just pops up season 4 and season 6, and it's like, bro, we do not want you here. Richard Alper here, one of the characters who I really turned around a lot, especially in season 6 here. Richard, man, he becomes, I wouldn't say like a main character, but he definitely becomes so much more important in the later seasons. We see him at bits and times, and he always never ages, and it was always like, dude, why is this man not age? And, he's involved in the island. He's been an advisor on the island for like over 100 years. And I love his backstory episode in season 6. One of my favorite episodes of the show. Him arriving on the Black Rock here and being like a captive on the island. And him in his journey of finding the Man in Black and Jacob. So great here. Such an underrated character. Love how we get to see just like how he's been on the island. He's been through so much on the island. Um, it's great, man. Rose here again, same. She's not as annoying as Bernard, but there is definitely at points where Rose will get on my nerves. But I think C tier just for her relationship with Bernard, and of course, I think her and Jack's dynamic, is very underrated in the show. Something that they hint at a lot when she's on screen. It's either her talking to Jack or Bernard. So yeah, not much to say about Rose. Next year, my favorite character on the show, James Sawyer Ford here. Man, James S tier, bro. James is hilarious, man. Sawyer, the first hint that we get of Sawyer's letter, amazing episode, one of the best plot twists of the first season, and he's just hilarious, man. Him and Lapidus are like the two funniest characters, but man, I think Sawyer he takes it, man. Every time he's on screen, he's so great. And Josh Holloway, specifically from this role, man, he's such an underrated actor. The facial expressions that he gives, and just the tone that he's always in, and the way he portrays Sawyer, it's incredible, man. Sawyer is my favorite character on the show. Um, Such a crazy character involved throughout all of the 6 seasons, and like I said, one of my favorites. Saeed here, man. I actually really dug Saeed. He again bordering on the S or A tier of characters. I do think I'm gonna put him in A tier. He was one of my favorites in like the first season here. And at points, he definitely goes off the rails. He's a badass though. Easily the best fighter of the group here. And I actually really do enjoy some of his background. As him being a torturer here. And him becoming involved in like the crazy twist of season 5 when he's on the island and they project that he's a hostile, and of course the Oceanic Six. um Saeed's pretty great, but I do think his conclusion's a little bit underwhelming. We see what happens to him, of course, with the ticking time bomb, but they don't really show like the aftermath of Saeed, which I wish we could have seen. But Saeed, definitely one of the coolest characters in the show. I'm gonna put him in A tier. Next year, if Shannon, do I give Shannon the benefit of the doubt here? I think I will. I'll give Shannon the benefit of the doubt. She was always again someone who seemed really annoying on the show, but her and Saeed, not one of my favorite relationships, but I do love a lot of her flashbacks. She becomes one of my favorites in the finale. I would say she has a great moments in the finale here. Her and Boone, of course, take up a lot of time in season 1, and it is very tragic how she goes out just being shot out of nowhere by Ana Lucia because not being recognized. So yeah, I think she's like a C tier, but she is very annoying, man. But I guess for some of the good flashback scenes and some of her dynamics on the show, she definitely gets better later on. So I'll give her the benefit of the doubt there. And then here, Walt, I'll put B tier. I think that Walt had a lot of potential wasted though. He was so, gifted here. Him and Locke talking, and in the epilogue with Ben, he talks to Walt about his powers, and we really never get like any explanations on the powers for Walt here. And he's like the only person to escape the island sort of with no consequences other than of course Michael having to come back to the island. But Walt is like, Jacob of course tells everyone that they need to come back, and but Walt's sort of like left alone, like he doesn't have to come back to the island but everyone else does, so it's kind of weird that way. um so yeah, he's just involved so much in the first season and then rarely seen after that, so I'll put him in the B tier. But yeah, so that's the tier list here. We'll recap. In S tier, we have Ben, Hurley, Jack, John, Kate, Vincent, and Sawyer. In A tier, we have Charlie, Daniel, Desmond, Jin, Sun, and Saeed. In B tier, we have Boone, Claire, Mr. Echo, Juliet, Libby, Frank, Jacob, the Man in Black, Michael, Penny, Alex, Danielle, Richard, and Walt. In C tier, we have Bernard, Charlotte, Christian, Eloise, Lana, Miles, Widmore, Rose, and Shannon. In D tier, we have Anna Lucia. In F tier, we have Kimi, Nikki, Paolo, and Tom here. So yeah, that's going to do it here for the Lost Characters tier list. Take care, everyone, and peace out.